Okay, folks, looks like we're cooking with gas. Welcome, everybody. We would like to acknowledge this land we meet on today as the traditional lands of the Ghcc people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Ghcc people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living people today. Are there any apologies? I don't think there are. I think they're a full house, which is rather nice, lovely. Any motions to grant leave of absence? When is our next meeting? I've got a feeling I might be a leave of absence. The 9th? Oh, okay, well, I'll be here. That's all right. I'll be. Hang on. No, I won't. No, I'm sorry. I will be a leave of absence for that day. Yes, please. That just for that day. Yeah. Move a motion that the chair, Judy Ferguson, be granted leave of absence for the 9th, just the 9th? Yes, 9th February 2023. Oh, sorry. Moved Karen, seconded Helen. Thank you. Those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you, everyone. Right. Can someone move? I'm relying on this. Can we move it up, please? Thank you. Seconded by Helen Henderson. And there aren't any leaves of absence, are there? And there's no non-attendance, so keep coming. I didn't get a printed version of the agenda this time. I normally do. I normally have it delivered to me, that's all. Sorry. And then I don't have to rely on the screen. Thanks very much.
Same with the scribbles.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Thank you. Right. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Confirmation of the minutes. Would someone like to move acceptance of the minutes of the last meeting? Yes, Karen, seconded. Helen again. Any further discussion? No? If those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you. All right, so we will move to 6.1. Would you like to speak to it, Natasha? Oh, Helen.
Sorry, I'd like to seek leave to move item 10.1 forward, please, in the agenda.
Your notion of notice of motion. Yes, would you like to speak to that, Helen, explanation?
Yes, I would. Seeing we're about to have an item that talks about our terms of reference, and my motion actually needs to, I believe, needs to precede that discussion.
Seconded by Karen. Further discussion on that proposal to just alter that agenda item, bring it forward. No, everybody happy with that? Please show. Right. Okay, so we will move to that notice of motion. Helen, would you like to speak to it, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As I sent through my some of the original email, I think it's time. We've been working with our terms of reference now for 6 years, and I'm going to open a discussion or encourage a discussion about what the remit of this council is. Is it time to think about extending it beyond? Our original remit was to look after items or to discuss things that were part of the heritage collection, the couple of thousand items, how they were managed, how they were conserved, whether we accepted new materials or large materials in, or whether we actually started to de-accession, all of which we've been doing successfully. And I think we have actually started to expand without us realising, because we now look at exhibitions that are beyond the collection, And I just think it's time, given the success of the collection, the heritage collection, and the wonderful things that the volunteers and staff are doing, is it time to perhaps expand the terms of reference for this group? I did throw a few discussion points in. I'm not wedded to any one of those. They were provided simply as conversation starters. My personal area that I'm very keen about, we have discussed it, maybe it was 2 years ago, the cultural heritage tourism. Not much is happening in this space in Gawler, despite the fact that we have considerable cultural heritage tourism events. And given that this is one of 2 committees that have community reps on it, section 41s rather, that have community reps on it, I know there's a real interest in the community. And it's a way that community members can be brought in and have the chance to offer some of their suggestions as well. So on that basis, I leave it up to my colleagues and to hear their debating points.
So Helen has moved that and Karen has seconded it. It's open for discussion now. So would someone like to participate in discussion? Karen and then Deborah.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Helen, for presenting this motion. I certainly think that the committee could be provided with briefings from parts of the organisation, such as whoever looks after the Williston Cemetery. We could get briefings on what's happening there. I think there needs to be an understanding of the capacity of staff, and certainly the staff that support this committee. And I think that there needs to be an understanding that it wouldn't be their role to do all of that work, but certainly briefings, it could be briefings from development staff, planners of, you know, what applications are in the system that relates to heritage, what it could be a briefing from the Visitors Information Centre on cultural tourism opportunities. It could be, and again, it could be around the cemetery, the Williston Cemetery and the opportunities there around what's happening at the cemetery, and just giving briefings to this committee and understanding, because then what that does is brings a level of transparency to, and given that we film this committee on YouTube, people can see and hear these briefings, and I think that might be an opportunity. So we do need to understand the capacity of staff, but we also need to, and how that might translate to revising in terms of reference. But I think there's an overlay of understanding the capacity of staff, and there's an overlay of transparency as well.
Thank you, Karen. Deborah?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a very interesting discussion and has a huge ramifications or focal point. I think the first thing, so given the motion that the Heritage Collection Committee be revised, is to come up with defining the parameters of what we are doing now. I think it's a great idea, but we need to focus on the parameters. So Mayor just mentioned, for example, the cemetery. I think that's only one area within Gawler where we could focus on. I think we need a generalized definition of what the Heritage Committee, take out collection. What is the Heritage Committee about? This is a very big discussion to be had that could take more than one of these meetings, as far as I see it. Tourism, what are the plans for Gawler? Gawler really needs to focus on tourism. It's fantastic place, Gawler. I've only been living here for just over 4 years and I love it. And the opportunities for tourism here are unlimited. We need to get more going on there with the state government and people coming in. But I think before we can go to that place, we need to be able to go in with a focal point. And those are not just the cemetery, but it's every aspect of that's how I see it.
Thank you, Deb. Paul?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Look, yeah, I thank Helen for bringing this up. I think we do need to review our terms of reference, but I agree with Deborah that we actually need to focus in on it. When I look at Helen's little spiel she sent, I'm just wondering about point 2 in your document. It talks about local heritage consultations for planning development matters. That's a really big area, I think, and I think that'd be very resource hungry, especially for this committee and the staff that we've got here, and it might take the focus away from what we're actually doing. So I just would be cautious about getting the terms of reference too big and then unable to do the things that we are focusing on already and losing the value that we've got. So just a bit concerned there.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone? Karen?
Is it worth having a workshop to really tease out before this goes up to council, just have a workshop to really think about? And I agree with you. I think the planning area, you don't come to this committee to get heritage advice, but it might be simply getting briefed on what's happening in the development applications that are in the system, and having a transparency around that. And that might be as simple as that, but that could be done through a workshop that and it might be a point 2 suggested to the through the chair to do a workshop to try and nut out what is feasible, what is practical, what is achievable, going to your point about parameters.
Deb?
Through the chair, I'd like to suggest too that it might be a good idea to, in some way or other, engage the community in what those parameters are.
Yeah, I think an idea of a workshop's great because that also gives the opportunity of staff to be involved in these discussions as well. I know through the formality of meeting procedure that is difficult, but that would be able to, for them to have an input into it as well, which I think would be very valuable. So I would, do we need therefore to amend the motion to do that?
As the mover, you can, through the chair, just add a point 2, and I think a workshop would be reasonable. That a workshop be I don't know.
So
You can
through the chair, if I may, and with the mover's permission, I don't think we're quite at the point to recommend to council that the terms of reference be revised just yet, because the preference would be to hold that workshop, consider that. So in terms of process, the council can revise and adopt a revised terms of reference at any point in time. It's not time bound to be a certain date. So rather than presenting it as revised, because we don't know what we're revising to, so there's no information to council in terms of those parameters, I would suggest that your motion, which Connie is actually 10.1, if you keep scrolling up a bit, thank you, that the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee holds a workshop to discuss the committee's terms of reference.
And that would, thank you, David.
It's technology is not playing nicely with Connie at the moment. So I'll repeat that, and Connie will scroll to it, that the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee holds a workshop to discuss its terms of reference.
I'm very happy with that.
And
Thank you
if
for your
Helen, you're
advice.
happy to move that, that was seconded by the mayor. Thank you. We'll just tidy that up and we'll get it on screen to show you.
Just for clarification from the chair, David, that's replacing the original motion.
So it's a revised motion put
Yeah,
by the mover. Yep.
My
Hello.
hand up.
Yeah, look, I agree. And I was looking through the actual, the Heritage Collection Committee's terms of reference summary here, and it says that we've been established to provide advice to council on the following. It's got some dot points. And there's some dot points, and I was reading them and thinking, gee, they're pretty broad, and there are things in there that I've not been aware that we were actually likely to do. So I think one that I looked at, identifying internal and external funding applications, including grants and sponsorship opportunities. So there's something in there that I'm not seeing happening through this committee. So it's like, yeah, you look at the terms of reference and you say, what can we do with it and how we can expand it? So that would be nice to have a workshop to do that, I think.
Thanks, Adrian. Anybody else that wants to?
Sorry, before we move through the chair, with your permission as well, mover and seconder, would it be advantageous to hold that workshop within a future committee meeting rather than having a separate time? Or would you like a separate workshop just on this? That's just a question. Separate workshop?
Yeah,
No
I think
problems.
so, please.
Thank you, just for that clarification, so we're clear. Thank you.
Right, well, we'll vote on that then. Those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Do we want to make a date for that at this point?
Through the chair, we'll work that through administratively. I would suggest right now it may well be the second Thursday in March, for example. Noting that the committee used to meet every second Thursday of the month. We do have a committee meeting on the second Thursday in Feb, so we might be able to slot it in March and then the regular committee back in April, for example. We'll work through with diaries and things though.
Right, thank you, everyone. So we will go back to our agenda. 6.1, Natasha.
Chair, I don't know that we should be noting the revised. I think we can we note the report, but I don't know if we note the revised Gawler, the terms of reference, because it might influence, might have to put up it's only a noting motion, but it's still, yeah, I don't know if we need any motion. We can note the report. I suspect that we note the report on, rather than any terms of reference, and just remove the reference to terms of reference, so it doesn't actually complicate anything.
Thank you.
Yes, I would support that simply because at the council meeting, it was a very quick process. The revisions were minor administrative changes, but you're right, the wording could be confusing, that it's already gone through a revision, which we're proposing to do through this workshop. So yes, noting the report is probably better, but we still need to, the second point though, we still need to start the process for bringing in new candidates.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion or anything, Paul?
So just reading this means we'll be one committee member down till May. Is that right? Yeah. There's no way or.
So through the chair, if we went out for expressions of interest right now to engage someone, the likelihood of getting someone before that date's low anyway, because of the process time. It's really only a month delay in essence. So the preference of staff is to do it collectively. Yeah.
Right, so we have item 2 under 6.1. Would someone like to move that, please? Deborah, seconded
Sorry,
by-
through the chair, it's all part of the one item. So
Oh,
we
okay.
have a mover and a seconder, so it's just a decision at this point.
Oh, right.
It's displaying oddly on screen because the second is a recommendation to council. It pulls through to the minutes a little bit differently than the agenda. Yep.
As it stands, then, those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you. Moving on, 6.2. Yes,
Can I just note too, I should have picked it up, on page 5.4, it's referring to the code of conduct for council matters, just a small administrative thing that's now needs to be updated, please. It's behavioural, yep, thank you.
thank you, Helen. Okay, conservation of leather frame, Jacinta. Oh, sorry, just before you, I forgot to welcome Martin to our meeting. I apologise, Martin. Your time will come in a few minutes. Thank you, Jacinta.
Through the chair, the National Trust, the Gawler branch of the National Trust very kindly gave us a donation in June of a beautiful embroidery with a hand-tooled leather frame. These objects are very rare and they are significant. It's an example of female workmanship. It was created by a 15-year-old Mary Ann Tucker. She was born in Port Adelaide and she created the object in Port Adelaide, but she spent most of her life in Gawler. She was connected to the Hayden cordial manufacturing family, and she was also connected significantly to the Forgy family. So it's quite entwined, this object, with Gawler's history. And I took the object to Art Lab because it obviously needed some conservation. The quote that came back was a bit of sticker shock. We knew it would be expensive, but that particular figure pretty much is our entire conservation budget. That being the case, I wanted to explore other opportunities for funding that. The Copeland Foundation, and I have been in contact with them, are a Melbourne-based foundation, but they have an interest in the decorative arts. They do fund South Australian projects. And so I'm looking for guidance from the committee about potentially approaching them when the grants open in June. They will fund 100% of the grant. So it's not necessary to co-fund, although the committee may suggest that it might be a good idea to co-fund, but looking for some direction around how we would best like to finance the restoration if we feel that this object should be restored at this time.
Thank you, Jacinta. Some discussion in relation to this?
Yes, thank you for the report. I'm going to strongly recommend that we do go through to seek the grant funding from the Copeland Foundation, simply because, and I've done a little bit of extra research, which I will send to Jacinta. These leatherwork frames are actually quite significant on a national basis. There's an Australian art consultant by the name of Jennifer Isaacs who's created a book on Australian women's domestic arts, and she refers to these in her book, and equally so cultural historian South Australian Dr. Norris, I always pronounce this, I think, mentions the leatherwork. Now he links it very strongly to the fact that this craft, although it became very popular in the 1920s as part of the arts and craft movement, earlier examples were found particularly in the German settled districts during the late 19th century. So he links it to Barossa, and he's found an example up there in the Historical Museum in Tanunda. But for me, it's again starts to indicate that Gawler was a German settled area, which we've discussed before. So I think it not only links to a young woman and to leisure craft, but I think that German connection with Gawler is also part of its significance. So I commend staff for finding an opportunity and finding a grant area that will perhaps fund it. So I think in the first instance, we should approach them. I would slightly change the wording. I would say on point 3, should the application be unsuccessful, I found that a little bit clumsy, then we will then investigate alternate funding, and there are a number of those that we can call upon as well. But I think going for external funding for such a large amount is entirely appropriate. Thank you.
Anyone else in discussion? Karen.
I particularly like the Copeland Foundation, if you are successful, and on page 10, they require all media associated with the object acknowledging the Copeland Foundation. We don't do that in Gawler with grant applications. It's very rare that, you know, we give 31,000 to the Carols. It's not very often that we get acknowledged. We provide over 63,000 to the Show Society, and well over $200,000 goes to various community groups. And I think we need to get stronger there are ways that we will ensure that that occurs through motions on notice, but it's a lot of money that this council spends supporting different community groups, and we do not get acknowledged adequately. And I think we need to get stronger. So I really liked that from the Copeland Foundation, and that's what we should be doing in every single application or grant that we provide to anyone, be it sports grants, be it community grants, be it whatever. Yeah, art awards, yeah, all of those things needs to be strongly demanded. It's a demand that if we're going to give money, we need to be acknowledged quite strongly. So yeah, I just thought I'd pull that out because I thought that was a really interesting paragraph.
Thank you. Deborah.
I know it's an aside to what you started with, Helen, but I'm stunned, Mayor. Sorry, through the chair. I'm stunned that this is not occurring, because there are people in the community who need to know that this is what is happening. It's not promoting, fairly what the council is doing, and how it is justifying how we are spending money, or you are spending money. So yes, I agree with you entirely that it shouldn't even be asked for. It should be just simply acknowledged that the council.
Okay, we'll get back to the topic at hand. That's all right. No, that's an important point. Adrian?
Yes, look, I don't think I'm wrong, but when I was looking up the foundation, I found Copland. Is it Alexander Hewitt? Copland Foundation. Yeah, but it was spelled Copland. Yeah, I just thought I'd point that out, but it was.
Well, the email address or the website address is Copland.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a guy who was who made money, or his family made money with furnishings and things like that, and he had an interest in old homes. Yeah, and I just thought I'd point out, because it'd be terrible to send an application in with an extra E, and yeah.
If we're going to ask them for money, we should get their name right.
Yeah. But I just thought, I suddenly thought, am I wrong? Because it's got an E in it so many places, but. Yeah.
No, you're right. Give that, Adrian. Is there any further discussion? Because we probably need now to have someone move. Could someone move? Helen, and seconded by Paul. Is there any further discussion before we put it? No. Okay. Those in favour, please show. Against, carried. And thank you, Jacinta. Point 3, Jacinta.
Through the chair, as is traditional at the end of the year, we produce a work plan update for the committee and a draft work plan for the new year. Due to elections and caretaker mode, we didn't do that last year, so we're presenting that now. As the report says, a number of collection management, budgetary reports, eHive reports have been presented to the committee. So this is just a brief overview, and it highlights the work plan themes and goals that staff would like for 2023 for discussion by the committee. One of the, again, it's a lot around the next exhibition after our communications exhibition. I have put in there that I would like the committee to discuss and hopefully make a decision on the 25 exhibition, just because it's very helpful for staff to work 2 years in advance. I appreciate that that might seem to be a bit constricting, but it does help us really, really plan in detail our exhibitions. We're in a fortunate position that we are bringing more and more community members into our exhibition process. And so the longer time frame, I think, is advantageous in that respect as well and helpful to them. So that's something that I had put in particularly a little bit differently for this work plan. And apart from that, it's when you might note that deaccessioning is not a standalone in this particular year. We've gone through easy things. We've got a bit more of an emphasis. Staff would like to have an emphasis on some of our governance documents next year. We have let that slide a little bit due to time constraints, but we'd like to bring that to the committee there as an emphasis on our collection management. And our exhibition. We'd also like to register with the History Trust as an accredited museum in the following year. So that's our draft work plan for the committee's discussion.
Thank you, Jacinta. Any discussion?
I think it must be me, but I don't have an attachment to the work plan. Oh, okay, sorry, wait a minute. Yes, here it is. My apologies. It's the coloured diagram. I was looking for something a bit different. Anna,
Adrian.
Mine's still on. I was interested to see the reference to the award that the exhibition got, and actually on their website, the judge had said it is fun, delightful, light-hearted and joyous, and really has the local community at heart. And that's what they put as his comment against. Yeah, I thought that was nice. And I could see that. So I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you, that's right. Any other discussion on this? Yes, Helen?
no, I'm happy to support it. I'm just struggling to catch up with all the priorities. It's okay. I'm not a table person. I think I agree with all of those. I'd just like to I'd like to support the idea that we do look towards setting the 2025. I think having that longer term strategy is very good and assist staff to do their planning as they explained. But I also think credit should be given that although some of the work plan from last year was not achieved, many other things. So I think having inbuilt flexibility and I note that the staff are very good at coming back and explaining why things are being shifted around. So I think that's a credit rather than a deficit in this work plan.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, we don't have to move anything in relation to this, do we, or we do? Okay, so Karen's moving it, seconded by somebody, Deborah. Those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you.
Chair, can I just suggest that perhaps we don't actually know what budget bids are going into councils on behalf of the heritage. I'd be interested to hear before the budget plan. And I know that starts very early, but maybe it could be we could be informed of what budget bids are going in so that we can support them as a committee.
Do you want to respond to that, Jacinta?
So through the chair, the budget bids have not yet been finalised. The first being presented to council via a workshop in mid-February. So we're still awaiting the deadlines for the council member bids, for example, to put that collectively, but more than happy to provide an update at a future meeting, which would be there in there or abouts. So I think the workshop might be after that heritage meeting, that's all. I'll just confirm all my dates, but more than happy to provide that update in due course.
Chair, because there is actually a participatory budget process that the members of the community can be involved in as well. And so again, being aware of what's coming through might help the community to understand where they would like to support certain things through that process.
Thank you. All right, updated notion list. Any discussion on this at all? All right, 7.2, exhibition update. Boom, boom.
Through the chair, we've got a few pieces of paper for the committee to have a look at and to provide feedback. The first, the A3 sheet, is our detailed plan layout of the exhibition, and it gives you an idea of the text panels. So if we go through, and I'll go through briefly because we would like it to be a surprise for the people out there, but you'll see I have approached Ghana to see if they'd be interested in providing some information on their communication techniques prior to colonial settlement, and I haven't had a response, but we have left an area where we can do that later at a later stage. So we'll then move into the early history of the post office in Gawler. We'll be including Dr. Knott's painting and the Samuel Calvert illustration that the committee authorised the conservation of last year on those panels. As we move around, we'll have the postal service on the left-hand side as you enter the gallery. We'll have a interactive of a sorting box where people can post letters and do things like that. We move past that, there'll be a pillar box and a bicycle, a postman's bicycle, around to the telegraph office, and we'll have Morse code machines that people can use. We'll have, we hope, some very historic equipment that we'll be borrowing from the History Trust. We will also have our collection. The Gawler Heritage Collection has some very important, Martin tells me, telegrams, and I know that because his face goes white as he looks at them. So he says to me, "You do realise?" And I say, "No, I don't." So we're very fortunate with this exhibition that we have the expertise of Martin, who's helping us with all things postal. Tony Bayliss is helping us with all things telephone. We have worked out a way to have the telephone box in the cafe area with wires that will not impact on the walls at all, and into the exhibition space. So people will be able to speak to each other via a telephone on either end. And we'll talk about the technology, which I think is an important story for young people as they understand the development of the telephone. We're looking at, with our telephone exchange, we're going to have a big piece of telephone exchange equipment that the National Trust have lent to us. And we will be putting some oral histories from ladies who worked at the exchange in those. So that will be an interactive. People will be able to plug in the little things and hear their stories. There's some fascinating stories of women talking to people through natural disasters, waiting for help, looking at that sort of voice of calm and reason at a time of potentially concern, frustration, anxiety for those people. We'll also have some of the fun stories of the exchange. The men in the PMG had a uniform and apparently they wouldn't provide one for the ladies working at Gawler, so they designed their own. And unfortunately we don't have a piece of that, but one of the ladies, we have good descriptions, and we're going to have a dressmaker's design made of that, not a physical one, but the drawing. So we'll have those stories coming out of the women in the exchange and the role they played in the community and the development of the telephone. And we're looking at different options for our windows. Traditionally, we have simply reproduced photos. This time we might be reproducing images of the different postal people who've been associated with Gawler and Williston Post Office. So we've got some women who've had the post office in there, so we have some of those. And we're also looking at telephone exchange people or a collection of telephones on the other end. The second piece of paper I wanted to show you was a demonstration of one of the interactives. So this will be a reproduced letter. And on the back, there is some information. So information about the time that it took for those letters to get to Europe or wherever they were going. There'll be other facts and things that we can put about post. The idea is that Martin will tell me how many did they have to do? Just push it button.
Yes. To be a letter sorter, you have to pass a test and do 500 letters in 17 minutes. Yes. So we'll have a much reduced test, of course, as part of the activity, but yes. Yes.
My husband, who's an ex-post officer, knows all by memory, all the postcodes in South Australia. Still remembers them after 25 years.
That's fascinating. We'll also be talking about the letterboxes because the Eagle Foundry manufactured pillar boxes. Now we haven't been able to track one down. We are still trying, but we will have a pillar box in there. We'll be talking about, what are some of the other things we'll be talking about? So sorry, that was the interactive, that's one of the interactive, so there's a sorting game, but there's information there. There's walls where we're going to put little bits of information and different opportunities for people to interact with the exhibition. We're fortunate Martin has acquired a very large collection of stamps, and we are going to package them up in little things for people to take away, because we are going to talk about stamp collecting. It's a worldwide collecting phenomenon, and it has been for hundreds of years. So we're going to talk about that. There's, I think, many people who had a stamp collection when they were young, and that will bring that back. We have some lovely old stamp albums to show. So we'll be giving people something to take away in this exhibition, some stamps if they'd like, and opportunities to interact with the exhibition through activities, through listening to the voices of the ladies. So we think it's one of those exhibitions where we'll have to pare back. There's a lot of stories to be told, but we're very excited. We're very grateful to Martin, Tony and the National Trust and the wider community who are once again really stepping up and supporting us. There are many hours of work, and we are particularly grateful, and a lot of expertise, which is wonderful. They're helping us with the text panels and the writing. We will, as we have in previous exhibitions, ask committee members who are interested in proofreading to help us with that. We've been very fortunate in previous exhibitions that Helen and Judy have done that, and that's another help and community involvement in this exhibition. We are looking to open at the end of March, potentially early April. We're just seeing when and who will be opening the exhibition. So I have approached a significant person. So we'll see whether that person's available. I can't name publicly at the moment, but it's going very well. So one of the things I did want the committee to give any feedback they have on the layout, but also if you look at the last 2 pages, these are the style guides that Richard has provided. He'd like a choice, one of the other. The first one, with that very strong sandstone backing, reflects the colours of our telegraph and telephone and post office buildings. The little squiggly bits down the side, I'm told, are capacitors, and there's something. They're actually, yeah, we did think that they were a learning opportunity, and we found out they're not just to look nice. So they're a learning opportunity. On the other side, so that particular one is more about the telegraph, and the telegraph, that style, and the photos are just there for effect. They're not photos for the exhibition. Whereas the last one with the squiggly lines is more about a telephone sound wave, apparently. So I'd like the committee just to think about what they think about which of these 2 design styles are easier to read. Which one might pop more in the room? Yeah, we are going to have a vote. So if we don't mind. So can I, this one?
All right, those in favour of the sand coloured one, please show. 2. Those in favour of the paler coloured one. Those that do not hear, please show. So I think if I'm not mistaken, the sand coloured one won, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah, okay, sand. Yeah, by a very narrow margin. Yeah, we had one abstention. Your mic on, Deborah, please.
Sorry, I love the lines up the top there. It's like the vibration of communication and that old style of yeah, that's one of the things.
You're out.
So, no, perhaps that just the squiggly line could incorporate it into the stand zone. So you
Yes,
have
it could be, that's
two,
right.
you have both the capacitor and the communication sound wave.
Yeah, good thinking, 99. You're not just a pretty face. All right. I've got a comment about, if I may, about the exhibition. I notice you haven't got any reference to aerograms, which were a very, very important part of mail between overseas mail for many, many years. And I have, where is it? In the middle?
It's in the middle, airmail.
Oh, airmail. Okay. Is that specifically, does that have aerograms in it?
What we were planning in the letter sorting activity, there's be 30 different types of mail which have
Okay.
originated in Gawler, and aerograms will certainly be among the 30. And there'll be letters from the 1840s to the 1970s in that 30.
Okay. I was going to offer some if you wanted some. And also I've got, I think I mentioned it at a previous meeting, I've got actual Gawler postcards if you're interested as well, because they were also obviously communication. Yeah. Any other discussion on this item, Helen?
I think it's looking great. I'm just wondering at this stage, have we got a plan for interaction with schools, or is this a little early to start to, because I actually think this, I know that this meets the curriculum at least 3 age levels, communication. She says, looking at Deb, who doesn't want to have to be a consultant on
Who's putting me on the spot? Look, I'm sure that there could be connections made to the curriculum. I don't think high school, I think more primary school. And it could be, a very good way of engaging students with activities like different types of letters and so on. I think, yes, I agree, Helen and Judy.
Jacinta?
Through the chair, we're very fortunate to have a retired teacher as a volunteer at the Cultural Heritage Centre who works with us on our education programs. But what we do is once the text panel is finalised, that's when we'll have Margaret come in and she'll really understand the messaging that's in there and how that then connects to curriculum.
Right. Nothing like ex-teachers, so fantastic. Is there any more discussion on this? If not, thank you very much, Martin, indeed, on behalf of the committee and Jacinta for your very hard work and brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, item 7.3, History Festival. Who's going to lead the discussion on that?
I might,
Karen?
lead. We had a meeting today, that's our second meeting for the History Network, and lots of different ideas. We've got James Martin machinery that Terry Krieg from the Lutheran Church is working with, hopefully seconding the Anglican Church car park and their car park. He's hoping to get lots of different machineries through Daniel Ornger, who chairs, can't remember what Daniel does, but he works, he's part of the Ornger farm, but he also, loves his machinery. So that's really exciting. Lots of different walks. The National Trust is doing something. Gawler Community Gallery is doing something. Of course, Council through Jacinta and David also putting on various events. Lots of historical events I will contact Corinne Stormer from Leslie's in the main street, who is looking at restoring the flying fox that's in there. I don't know how far she's got, but she was invited to the meeting today, but she's just so busy. So, but at least she's on the mailing list. So that's really important. Tony Piccolo is also involved and looking at doing something on one of the Sundays. Anglican Church is opening both their churches. The cemetery, Anglican Cemetery up on Cheek Avenue is doing some tours. National Trust doing some ghost tours with Alan Tiller, just to talk. And have I missed anything? Oh, VIC is doing various Coombe tours. So there's lots happening. There will be a brochure being coordinated through Jacinta and her team. And once that's, and we will have a launch in, when we were doing the launch, April, sometime in April. So look out for that. It'll be a packed month of May. And we're really getting a reputation as being 1, coordinated, 2, complementary, and 3, very organised with a brochure, with their own brochure. So I think it's really, really exciting. Martin, are you doing anything? You're, and history team's doing something, but what were you thinking of doing? Oh, that's right. The exchange, the Gawler Exchange, getting people together, and also the post office. They're really interested in coming in and getting together. So I think there's lots of interest in history. So look out for that. It's going to be quite exciting.
Thank you, Karen. Helen?
Yeah, and we were going to, or the staff are going to liaise with the Gawler Business Development Group to alert them, and there was also initiative with some of the local hotels. So very much this year, not only the history organisations, but
with the hotels, looking at, and that was your idea, Jacinta, which was a wonderful idea, to see if they could do an old world menu, which would be really quite interesting for the month of May. So we'll see where that goes. But lots of really fantastic ideas and really growing, isn't it? Yeah, and GIHA will be, Gawler Environment and Heritage Association will be doing some tours as they normally do, and they're always really, really interesting. So yeah.
I was just thinking about the, old-fashioned meals, of the theme of the History Festival being, I wonder. I wonder what I'm eating. Is there any further discussion about this item? If not, there's no discussion on future meetings. Are there any questions without notice? If not, I'll close the meeting and thank you all very much for your attendance, particularly Martin. Thank you. I should thank Connie too. Thank you, Connie, for your hard work on our behalf.